Because they don't choose you for how colorful you are. They choose you for the color you bring to their lives.
So we used to do this exercise every time we failed as a team. The team would get together and we would stand up. One of us would stand up and say, okay, what are we going to do now? 2 hours, blameless postmortem. So we're going to do a postmortem, but there's no blame. No one is allowed to take the name of a person and say, this person failed.
The more people climb up the ladder, less empathy visible from them. And it's not because all of a sudden they lost it or all of them are sociopaths.
Hi and welcome to the Leadership Enigma. Today, everything changes. It's been absolutely humbling over the last 6 years. I've had more than 300 conversations with extraordinary leaders from all over the world. And I've been fascinated by one simple question. And that is, what makes leadership deeply, deeply human? So at a time when artificial intelligence is transforming how organizations operate, make decisions, create value, perhaps the most important leadership question of all is this. As machines become more intelligent, what makes leadership more human? From those conversations, research, and real-world experience, I've identified 8 dimensions that form what I've called the rise of leadership superpowers, which is human-centered leadership. And those 8 components that I've identified include vulnerability, inclusivity, humility, empathy, personal purpose, presence, care, and curiosity. So today we are launching the first ever global human-centered leadership index to explore which of these qualities matters most, if indeed one does matter most. Where are leaders strongest? Where are the gaps? And which human capabilities will become defining in an AI-powered world? And to launch this conversation, I am incredibly excited because I'm joined by 2 exceptional former CEOs and friends of the Leadership Enigma, Angela Cretu and Tiger Tyagarajan. So, trust me, you don't want to miss this particular conversation because today, everything changes. Come back to me after the break. Hi, I'm Adam Pacifico and welcome to the Leadership Enigma, a world-ranked, award-winning podcast that's insatiably curious as regards what leaders do, how they do it, and importantly, why. We'll delve into the human doing, but even deeper into the human being and the power of human-centered leadership to drive sustainable change. So whether you're an entrepreneur, business owner, corporate executive, each week we speak to global experts, academics, rising stars, ambitious upstarts and disruptors, as together we will discover that success leaves clues. It is a huge warm welcome to Angela and Tiger. Thank you so much for making the effort to come in today. How are you both?
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you so much for having us here and happy to be by your side at this very special moment.
Well, you are both friends. You are both huge supporters of the show. You've both been in the studio before, Tiger, a number of times now with things. But when I contacted you, let me ask you a personal question. When I contacted you and said, hey, will you come back in the studio? And we were going to do something slightly different. Then I said, do you know what? We're going to do this human-centered leadership thing. And you just both kindly said, okay, we'll see you there. Why?
I didn't say, okay.
What did you say?
I jumped. And I said, yes. Literally. You didn't see me because I responded on email.
Because you weren't in the UK probably at the time, right?
And the reason I did that was because it hit bullseye to generally my view of the world. I just didn't use the phrase human-centered leadership.
Yeah.
But when I saw the framework that I'm sure we'll talk about, those words jumped out at me because they kind of hit my bullseye. So, yeah.
Okay. And Angela?
It's an exciting opportunity. How could I say no? I've done everything to be here because you know how to bring meaning to conversations. And I think for your audience and not just for everyone, we are all in a deep search for meaning nowadays.
I think that's such an important, I've heard before that meaning actually is the new money, especially for the younger generation. Now, I haven't really done an introduction, and I'd love you to do that. So, Angela, let's stay with you initially. Tell everyone a little bit about your incredibly rich corporate background, because we're going to dig into that, but we're also going to dig into your experience as a leader, as a very senior leader, as a CEO. So just remind everyone what that background has been, Angela.
I was pretty lucky because I've had 30 years of a fascinating ride in a corporate world. I've started from the grassroots, a position of area sales manager in Romania with Avon. And then every 3 years, I change country, culture, roles. till after 20 years, yes, in different jobs around the world, I got the global CEO role and then led the company through a historical transformation from a traditional direct selling to an omni-channel, vibrant business model, and gaining another 100 years lease of life, let's put it this way. And currently, I've stepped aside from the executive roles, and I went plural. I'm a non-exec director supporting boards. I'm an angel investor supporting female tech founders.
Yeah.
I support companies in their own transformation or culture evolution programs. And I am enjoying my new learning chapter.
And being an absolute superstar in coming in and having this conversation with us today. And there is a great episode already on the platform where you and I talked about that story and that journey for you as the CEO of Avon Cosmetics, so people can check that out. Tiger, we've done lots of things together now, haven't we? But tell everyone a little bit about your incredible background as well.
I can actually keep it really short because I can just change a few words, and what Angela said is her story, and that becomes my story. So, area sales manager, Unilever in India, Hindustan Lever, 7 years. Then financial services, Citibank, and then moved to GE, financial services, so GE Capital, in the mid-90s. And after some time, set up the back office, analytical services, technology services for a number of GE businesses inside GE. Spun it off, took it independent, and then became the CEO in 2011. And did that for 13 years. Was very fortunate and lucky to be at the right place at the right time with great mentors. And I had a phenomenal journey through that, building a lot of business-to-business relationships as they drove change and transformation. Retired from my corporate job 2.5 years back. Now lead a plural life, boards, advisory. But some of the most interesting things I've done are coming to this studio and doing conversations.
That's
true.
That's it. Here we are celebrating.
That's what
the
I
moment.
mean. This is high praise indeed after 300 conversations. Let me start with kind of the headline point, which is why we're here. As AI gets smarter, and we can't stop the AI development, it's going to continue. Does human leadership become less or more important? What are your thoughts on kind of that headline point? So, Tiger, let me start with you. More or less important? I know what you're going to say anyway, but but I want you to say it anyway.
I think it's going to be dramatically and incredibly more important. And if I were to step back and say, humans spend a lot of time asking questions, and then a lot of time finding answers, cranking the solution, checking solutions, making sure it works, figuring out mistakes, correcting it. The proportion of time, unfortunately, is 5% ask the questions, maybe even lesser, and 95% find the solution and build it, et cetera, et cetera. In the world of AI, a lot of the answers, the solutions, the corrections, the feedback loop, and the better solution every day, every 2 hours, is going to be done by the machine. And the machines are getting smarter and smarter, as you said at your opening. What does that do? It makes that 95% capable of being done in 5% because the machine is there. So now you can spend 95% of your time asking questions. And I've been a big believer, going back into history, that, asking questions, bringing a group of people to ask questions together, taking the minds of different people and looking at it differently and building the solution. All of those are human. And all of those become more important for a variety of reasons. One, because there's more time. And two, because if everyone is going to have the same machine and the same answer, so what's different between you, me?
What's the differentiator?
Yeah, it's what is human.
Yeah.
And therefore, I think this is incredibly important for the world of the future and for all of us to think about it individually, as society, as businesses, etc.
I'm saying to clients at the moment that actually this focus is a critical survival capability for their organizations. And it's interesting you talked about getting back time, because I had an incredible guest come on the show who unfortunately passed away, Dr. Mark Goulston, and he said, AI will give us back time. The critical question for leaders now is, what do you do with that time? because your organization will fill that time for you without any hesitation. But on a human level, what do you do with that time? So I'm really glad that you've just mentioned that so early. So Angela, let me come to you, and I know also which direction you're going to go, but I, just from your perspective, does human leadership become more or less important?
I would add a little bit of dramatism,
Yes,
the
come
drama
on.
to it. I think it's vital to our future as humanity. And I know we talk about the overall evolution of businesses and how important is human leadership, not just in the face of technology, but look around us. We are living in a completely messed up world, the conflict of, all the tensions,
Yes.
the conflict of forces, the paradoxes that humans have to manage every day, short-term, long-term, good for me, good for the others. The same for the companies. Yes, with all these scarce resources, what are the right decisions, not just for the now, for the next quarter earnings release, but for the future and for my community, for the planet.
Yeah.
So many tensions to deal with every day. And to me, a human-centered leadership with the right focus on what's true, genuine value creation, not just short-term,
Yeah.
but longer term and for a wider audience of stakeholders. That will create the true difference. Machines will create equal solutions for all, more advanced, but equal, non-differentiated.
Yeah.
But the human leadership will still add the color and the difference. And second, we'll make sure we defend the very humanity
Yeah.
we all yes inherited, and we want to evolve it, for our own successors.
I love that as a point. I knew there was a reason I asked the both of you to come in for this,
Adam, can I
for
just-
this episode.
Can I just jump
Of course,
in?
that's what we want to do, to spur off each other's conversation.
One of the most interesting things that Angela said was that the human
Yeah.
comes in, because the machine gives the same answer to everyone. And that is so important, because what does the human come in for? Sometimes the human should come in and say, I know the machine gave this answer, but I want to change the answer. I decide to change the answer because my values, where I want to go, and my purpose, and where I want to take this is in this direction.
Yeah.
I've got all the answers, which is good. It's going to help me, but I'm going to change it. Only a human can change it. I can bring in my values, my objectives, my weightages, which are different from someone else's weightages on different things.
That's the differentiator,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Gary Ridge, who was the former CEO of WD-40, I've spoken to a couple of times, and he flew in and he was in the studio. And he said that the values for him and the organization were the freedom and the glue. I'm working with loads of leadership teams right now and CEOs. And as CEOs, how do you go about creating some stability, or how do you set out a playing field? Because everything is very turbulent outside of the business. It can be turbulent inside the business. How did you give people some degree of clarity, certainty, comfort as kind of your people within your organization? How do you even do that? Because they bring in all of the stresses and trials and tribulations that are outside, inside, because they're human. But how do you settle the playing field, if at all? It's a question that's on many CEOs' minds in many conversations that I'm having.
So, Adam, as usual, I'm going to give you a pretty provocative answer, which most people may not agree with.
That's why we're here.
I don't think the leader should approach with an objective saying, I want to create stability for my team. Because that's an unreal world. And unfortunately, the outside world is not going to be stable ever. So my view is that you create stability in a few foundational elements of purpose, meaning, values, that you say, guys, we're never, ever going to give up on these things.
They're the non-negotiables.
Non-negotiable,
Right.
thin, but very strong stability.
It's almost like the three legs of a stool.
Yeah.
Stability.
Everything else,
I've got a visual in my mind already.
everything else
Yep.
is deliberately unstable. And in fact, then you create a culture where people love instability. They fall in love with instability. I have a view on this, which is every time I would encounter a team that you would tell me, we're very stable, we're running really well, all our KPIs are green, I would walk out of the room after 30 minutes, catch my HR leader and say, take the two best people from that team and move them out. Move them to another team that requires such great people. Because this team, one, is actually very good, and 2, feels they're really good. Make them unstable. Because instability creates innovation. Instability forces you to think differently. Because you say, oh my God, what do I do now? I don't have the stability.
Yeah.
So progress is made when there's instability. So I don't like searching for stability because that's not the world we are in.
But you can create some pillars of strength
very
within
strong,
that instability.
But very deep foundational.
Yeah.
That irrespective of everything else in the world and strategy changes, those foundational elements never change.
Right. I love that. Angela, thoughts?
The way I look at it, I absolutely love your perspective, and I just want to add maybe another kind of visual way to imagine what stability is. Stability is not what people imagine, like things are predictable, because the world is not, and would be really a fake image to sell.
Yeah.
People don't follow this type of fake sense of stability, false sense of stability. Imagine 3 of us are starting tomorrow, I don't know, an exploration into an uncharted territory. Can be on sea, on land, yes, or climbing, yes, Ulaanbaatar, or back on riding horses. So we don't know what expects us. What will give us the best output? It's not stability, right? It's trust.
Yes.
It's trust.
Yes.
First of all, is meaning, like you called out, is purpose. Why we are in this together? What do we want to achieve then?
Yes.
How we are going to achieve it? And then, do I trust you to have my back in case something unexpected happens in this new exploration of ours? And now bring it back to our business story. World is so, in this moment, there are so many variables into the game that the old playbooks of prescriptive strategies, if this KPI moves, then the other one will for likely follow this path. That is not happening alone. It's all about emergency. It's all about having an army of people thinking in a synchronized manner.
Yeah.
What unites them is not stability. What unites them is a sense of purpose, very central point in your own now human-centered leadership, and then that sense of trust, of us trusting each other, that we are going to face whatever challenge comes along the way.
And I love the fact that you've mentioned that, because you haven't really seen this yet, but the new human-centered leadership DNA, the helix, its foundational is trust and the necessity to earn trust rather than just accept that it's there in the first place, because it has to be earned. So I know we're all singing off the same hymn sheet, and I'm going to ask Ariella in a moment to flick the screens across so we can show people the 8 components of human-centered leadership. And when I show these to people, it resonates. And I'm not showing it to people to say, these are in some ways the golden goose. This is definitely it simply inspires and provokes a conversation and a reaction. And the best feedback I ever get is with really senior leaders who just say, after 30 years, you've got me thinking. That's it. Even if it's, I don't agree with this, or I have a different view on that, perfect. It's just got people thinking, which is sometimes missing. So we've got onto the screens here. We've got it behind us. The 8 dimensions, and I mentioned this earlier: vulnerability, inclusivity, humility, empathy, personal purpose, presence, care, and curiosity. And this came about for me as the answer to a question we were talking earlier that I was asked in 2019 after I wrote my book. I don't think I'd really considered that this was the biggest learning outcome for me, but it was. In all the conversations I've had, clearly over 300 now, this keeps coming to the surface as the differentiator, as the thing that is taking leaders and businesses from good to great, especially when times are awkwardly difficult, turbulent, which they are right now. The world feels bonkers, and not in a great way, and everything changes. So I didn't share some of my questions with you deliberately because I wanted to get, and I know you're spirited in this, and we'll have some fun with it too. As you look at the dimensions on the screen, if you could choose one that you think will become dramatically more important over the next decade, which one would you choose and why? So if there was one...
I know which one would Tiger
I
would
think
choose.
we all know
so
which one,
I
right?
will leave him that pleasure to talk about it because he brings so
we know,
much.
'cause he's about to write a book on it, so we know exactly, we know each other
brings lots
well.
of spirit into it.
Yeah.
I would choose, of course, there are many here I absolutely resonate with humility to me.
Okay.
Because it's the most controversial one. People assume that humility will not get somebody far, and humility is really creating more of a shadow, not a true presence. In reality, the way I observed over 30 years of leadership, that humility is a great liberator, it's a great empowerer. I mean, the less I tried to prove my value and the more I tried to enable other people value and really show the value we create together.
Yes.
And then amplify that, the more strength I got in the business and in my own leadership. Second is a freedom enabler. Because once you understand this is never about you and never about what's written on your business card, and that you are not the one on that piece of carton out there.
Yeah.
The overall, I would say, presence, authenticity, both in the boardroom and on the shop floor and all other aspects of life is completely different. And people like to be associated with, engaged with, follow authentic leaders. And that comes with humility.
I love the fact that you've picked, and we haven't scripted, we haven't had this conversation just so everyone knows. This is
There are
literally...
others that I like, but I hope you'll ask again.
Well, I
what
love
will
it
be the
because you're
next.
going, it's go with the gut. And I'm going to come on to you in a minute, Tiger, but I've a couple of reflections because I've had CEOs sat in this very studio and one said the three most powerful words that he could utter was, I don't know. As CEO, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not the smart. And what you say, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, which I also love, right? It's great,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes.
And I also,
Or you're delusional.
and I also had another CEO, and we haven't released it yet. And I'm not going to give too much away. Their company was about to do something that has literally never been done anywhere in the world. There's only 2 companies in the world who have done it. And when they actually were able to do it, the CEO decided not to be there. He wanted his people
Yes, to lead it. Of course.
and be at the front of it. And he dropped into the... So I see
so
evidence of humility in really good leaders all the time. So I'm warmed by the fact that was the one that you came out. So Tiger, let me come to you. Angela, I know what you're going to say, but we want you'll talk about it in a passionate... If it's something else, then we'll start again.
I love surprising everyone,
Yeah.
including you, Adam and Angela. So first of all, there's a reason why this is a circle connected to each other rather than, 8 pillars or 8 boxes.
They're all interconnected.
They're all interconnected.
Yeah.
And Angela, you picked humility. And I would say that is such a foundational one. So I'm not picking humility because I'm picking something else, curiosity. However, I would actually pick curiosity, vulnerability, inclusivity, humility as extremely connected. Here's the thought.
Yeah.
If the way I think is being curious drives progress. Okay, so what will get you curiosity? How do you become more curious? By doing 3 things systematically every moment of your life. By being humble, which means you declare ignorance. You say, I don't know.
Yeah.
To the point that was
yeah.
made. You may be the senior most, highest paid person in a group, and you go to the person who's at the front line and say, can you teach me? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's humility. 2, you therefore expose yourself and become extremely vulnerable. You share your fears. You share your problems. You share the mistakes you've made. And that you do with a whole bunch of people who may have completely opposite views to you, which means you have to include them. Why is all this important? Because the ultimate objective of being curious is to learn. And you start by expressing ignorance, you are humble, you include people who hear your ignorance, you share your fears and your failures. And that creates the feedback loop into learning and becoming adaptable. The world we are in and further going to progress on the bedrock of AI is a world where collective learning is going to be fed into one brain of the world. We all have our brains, but now there's going to be one brain of the world that all of us can tap into, which is why, to Angela, your point, everything becomes equal. And then that allows us to keep making progress as long as we say, here are things we don't know. I don't know. I want to include different perspectives and bring that to the fore. So it's the interconnectedness of each of these is what makes this framework dramatically fascinating and brilliant.
And I love the fact that you've linked it in that way, because I'm just now looking at the new model and how we're connecting it to trust, meaning, belonging, and discovery. And that's something that we'll share and we'll play around with, because it'll iterate, it'll change over time. Yeah. But every time I think we now start to offer senior leaders a point of view, it just creates an opportunity for people to think and challenge their own thinking because we're in a world at the moment, and with AI, where no one really knows. Yeah. So the phrase "I don't know" has to be more commonly used now by the most senior of leaders, the most powerful of leaders, because that has to be the case. I've got another question.
Can I cheat a little bit?
Sure, you can cheat anytime you want. What have you got for me?
I've got a second one.
Go on.
On top of curiosity.
Yep.
And it's not, the word is not here, but you've already mentioned it, and it kind of cuts across almost everything.
Yes.
Which is trust and human relationships. So again, go back to the beginnings of humans as a species. Two things drove it, which is, I have questions. How did this fire start? Can I actually start my own fire and so on? And the second one was, who do I trust in my small group, in my tribe, in my clan, in my hunter-gatherer population? And that trust in the world of AI is going to become even more important, because trust is going to be very difficult to find in what comes out of a machine.
It's the new currency, right?
Yeah, it's a completely new currency.
It's been elevated even higher now, hasn't it? Yeah.
So the machine is going to produce an answer. You don't know if actually it's this person's answer or is it a fake answer. The only way I come to the conclusion that this is a good answer is because, Adam, you sent it, or Angela, you sent it. I say, okay, now I can attach whatever is coming to me with the person, and I trust that person. That's it. I don't care about the content. It's the person.
Yeah.
So trust gets elevated to a much higher level. And I think underneath all of this is trust. It sits across the board. The moment you say human-centered, I guess trust is there.
And it's interesting because we're going to talk about, in the new model, earning trust, and we've got vulnerability and humility are segments of that. So I'm really excited to start pressure testing this, because we're going to get, it's like football. Everyone's got an opinion on this, which is quite, see what I did there? Why not? We're in the middle of the World Cup, so it's a good thing. I want to ask you both another question as well. As you look at these 8 dimensions, is there one that you personally struggled with as CEO? Because I say to people, as you look at this, it's a little bit of like graphic equalizer. Some of these might have been instinctive and automatic and naturally strong, and others, it's work in progress for all of us. There's something that's work in progress. But as you look at these now with your incredible careers as CEOs of big businesses, is there one here that you felt was the most difficult for you, or the one that you had to be deliberate about or think about a little bit more?
I mean, yes. I mean, I had to learn a lot that it's not about just preserving your principles and values as you go through different roles or work with different cultures. Yeah. Imagine I would work every 3 years, I would change country and culture. So I worked in Middle East, I worked in Russia, I worked in US. And every time I had to change the way I would talk to people, and especially how I would engage people. People think it's the one and the same thing, but it's all about presence. Sometimes people believe that presence is just how you walk in a room, how you dress, or how you introduce yourself, or how you deliver your speeches.
We hear people use the phrase executive presence,
Executive presence, and that drives me crazy because presence is about embracing the world of the community you are part of or you want to engage with. And see them as a community, as a new world, and embrace that world. Just don't show yourself. I mean, you mean nothing. You are nothing unless you enable the best value they can provide. Then they engage with you. Yeah. And people forget about this critical, human nature attribute that I put value in you if I see the value in me by my association with you.
Right.
So presence to me was a challenge because as I went, as an example, from my Central European upbringing and culture to US, I would get lots of feedback about my intense and very direct nature. And I would alienate people, especially in group setup meetings, with my way to drive message. I thought it's only honest, they would know exactly what I stand for, but I forgot at moments that this is not about me. It's about making sure that they are part of the game, they lead the game by my side. So I had to learn, once again, how to engage with them as per their own cultural values. Even the way I would smile, I would talk about their families, and the way I would make sure that I ask the room at least 3 times what they think about a certain situation before making a decision. That was US, yes, New York corporate environment. But then I flew to Russia, and I had my role to lead Russia and Eastern Europe. And I will never forget, I had my first town hall. And I think I've told you this story maybe in the last podcast, I'm not sure. But I told this story many times when in front of thousands associates audience, I'm presenting to them the vision I have for Eastern Europe and especially for Russia. I even, use few Russian words just to show how curious I am to learn more about their culture. Yet at the end, somebody comes to me and says, you smiled too much. People would not trust you here if you smile that much. In Russia, we have a saying, smile and everyone will think you are an idiot.
It's quite a harsh lesson, isn't it, as the boss?
Well, I got it. Believe me, there was no second interpretation. I mean, it doesn't leave you too much space to interpret. I mean, that was refreshing from that perspective because I moved to a completely different culture. Yes, where to gain trust, they're kind of coconut culture. Yes, so for them, it was not valuable to ask their opinion in a public setting.
Right.
They would see it as a sign of weakness, not vulnerability, weakness. But they would want their opinion to be taken into account, but in a one-to-one setup.
Right.
And then when there is a public setup, I'm coming directly with a decision.
Right.
Very different dynamic. Same values, same principles of integrity, of humility, of everything you want. But this is about presence. And presence doesn't come just with your physical, appearance. It comes with how you engage people. So I learned with humility lots of lessons during all these transitions, especially Middle East, where you have very different types of interactions, or South Africa, and you would know because you just returned from there, very different ways as well to meet people. Even the way you hug people and really greet people is so very different.
Yeah.
And the small talk very different as well.
And
So
this is so important for a global leader.
Is absolutely key, yes, to show the respect. Speaking about trust that Tiger called out as the key enabler, the vital force beyond every connection, if we really mean to create value with it. That comes when you embrace the role, not just adapt to the role. Learn the language, and that's valid as well in a boardroom, in any given situation. Presence comes with complete world immersion, and not just showing up and say, hey, look at me, I just came to this meeting.
It's that ability to change but still remain authentic, isn't it, in the situation that you find yourself in?
And not making about yourself at the end.
Yeah, it's not about.
If people see you as enabler, as a connector, as a multiplier, they want to be by your side.
There's an energy to it, isn't there?
Yeah.
So, Tiger, which one of these perhaps was the most challenging for you? Well, there we go.
But with a very different lens.
Tell me.
It's interesting. I was listening to Angela, and when she picked presence, I said, wow, that's mine as well. And then when Angela described it, I said, oh, okay, it's mine, but it's with a different presence lens.
Yes.
And tell me if this resonates. So, the way I've thought about the world we are in is that it's a world where distraction is the easiest thing that is happening to everyone, particularly since I'm driven by curiosity. I'm probably most vulnerable to being distracted.
Right. All shiny.
Right. I'm constantly looking for, hey, this is so cool. I want to understand more. 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 And part of the challenge, particularly of the lower half of this, which is care, presence, and empathy, particularly, those three, is how do you be present in the moment? So to me, that being present in the moment when you're with one or many people, so that they get your 100% and they know they're getting it, and you're listening, which further helps your curiosity and all of that, but you're not distracted by other things.
Really listening.
Yeah. And, as you rise in an organization and become a bigger leader, your reason to get distracted with an excuse is actually sometimes real. The board member is calling you and there's an important message, there's a crisis, blah, blah. And everyone is reachable on a phone. So I've had to be very deliberate to create presence, such as sitting at a dinner table, the phone is always down or the phone is in my pocket. A 2-hour dinner, not once do you look at the phone.
Yeah.
I mean, those are not natural. They are unnatural for someone like me.
Right. Especially if you've got an Apple Watch as well.
Right. Yeah. You got lots of things pinging. You got to create that. And I have found feedback, which is why it kind of sticks in my brain, where people have come and saying, I've known you for 10 years. When I talk to you, you actually do listen. You're intently listening. And then you ask me questions, which tells me you listened. So that's unique. And I said, really? I didn't know that. It
People
reinforces
feel valued as well.
It reinforces what people are looking for, and okay, so I should do that. One other thing about presence, I have this view that spending too much time on the future is actually these days dangerous, because we just talked about the world is changing so much. How do you know the future? You don't. So why are you spending time on the future? Well, don't spend too much time on the future. Spending time on the past is even worse. The only reason to spend time in the past is very quickly figure out what are the learnings you had from there. But don't dwell on the past. If I had done this, then this would have happened. I wish I had done that. The present is gone while you're either thinking of the future or the past. So live in the present is kind of my motto. Yeah. However, think about the past and the future for 2 reasons. One, create learning loops, because the world is about learning loops, without any reason to blame anyone. So we used to do this exercise every time we failed as a team. The team would get together and we would stand up. One of us would stand up and say, okay, what are we going to do now? 2 hours, blameless postmortem. So we're going to do a postmortem, but there's no blame. No one is allowed to take the name of a person and say, this person failed. It was, what did we learn from this, and blah, blah. And the second one is, think about the future only to create scenarios. If this happens, we'll do this. So you're creating adaptability and learning, and then you go.
In the moment.
In the moment, and experiment. Because the world we are in is experiment, where failure is a given. AI is about stochastic, not deterministic. So X% will fail. And failure creates learning loops that then makes you improve. So it's presence, but
I love
with
this,
a different
the other
window.
dimension of it. Yes, there are so
Two
many
different windows.
dimensions.
Well, I
of
love the fact
presence.
that you've got two people with incredible backgrounds who have both chosen the same thing, but for very different reasons. And that's the whole. That's why I'm excited about us launching all of this, because it will just stimulate lots of different conversations. I hope at senior levels, and it's critical. It really is a critical survival capability. Can I ask a question from when you're thinking back into your roles over many years as the CEO of these global companies? Was there a dimension, or even in your roles now, when you're on boards and you're working with organizations now as an external voice, is there a dimension here that you think is absent, or is absent more than it should be? So is there something on the screen that you think, I don't see enough of that, or I don't come across enough of that in your experience as both CEO now as board members? Is there one that jumps out for you? And again, you haven't heard these questions, so I love what your instinctive responses
The
might
one
be.
that I don't see too much.
Yep.
It's not because people lack having it. Is maybe because of the pressure, or we are not taught how to express it,
Yes.
or we think there is no space for it, is empathy.
Right.
At many senior roles, and I'm not talking just in business, you can see it in politics, yes, and all other leadership roles in a society. The more people climb up the ladder, less empathy visible from them. And it's not because all of a sudden they lost it, or all of them are sociopaths. Some of them are pretty good ones.
Yeah, let's be honest.
Let's
there are
be
some.
clear. Let's be clear. Yes,
Yeah.
there are some of them are.
Yeah.
is because we are not taught, or we feel we cannot allow ourselves showing it, putting it on an equal weight with vulnerability. And to me, empathy is one of the biggest accelerators, because empathy is giving you the peripheric view, the ecosystemic view. And in nowadays where you have so many, conflicts and so many tensions, and knowing what true value is. Because I will give you one of dilemma where empathy is extremely important. On one hand side, you have the Wall Street applauding and rewarding all the companies who automate faster and enable AI end-to-end. Nobody is yet systemically asking the question, hey, who is going to buy the products and services of these beautifully automated companies if most of their employees will lose their jobs? And what will happen with the society overall? I mean, that guaranteed income, that's an utopia, thinking that will really create a happy society and engaged society. So to me, empathy is really as well connected with the curiosity, because you really want to understand how the other feels, to walk in their shoes, understanding what are the consequences for all elements, all the interdependencies in this ecosystem of ours, of humanity altogether. So empathy, unfortunately, not too many leaders currently, especially under the pressure of the short-termism of public reports every quarter, they feel they are allowed to ask themselves, how is restructuring that they are doing, having a face, a name, a family, hopes.
Yeah, it's that personalized piece, isn't it?
Yes.
So empathy, I think that's quite an interesting focal point, especially as you say, for those who have become very senior and the race to the top. Or are we actually now in a race to the bottom with AI development? I don't know. Tiger, which one of these maybe was one that you felt was lacking?
So it's fascinating. It's empathy.
Yeah.
I just have to say to people, we haven't had this conversation.
And I was thinking, should I change mine? I said, no, it is empathy. And here's my problem with empathy. As you get to, lots of big leaders, senior leaders becoming bigger, they're obviously very intelligent, very well-read. They've seen, they've thought about their own frameworks. They all get empathy. They all know empathy. They all understand it. It's not easy to practice it.
No.
And they don't even know when they're not practicing it. The reality is that in my current plural life, I'm involved in so many of these change journeys. I work more with businesses, so change journeys in businesses using AI, etc. The reality is only 10% of that is the AI and the technology and so on. 20% of that is the process and all of those things. 70% is about the people. And most such change journeys forget that actually 70% of success, failure, journeys, etc., are all about the people. At the highest level, society and what happens, but even at the small business level, understanding that people can prevent change from happening, can engage with the change, etc., etc. And it sometimes surprises me that while leaders get the word empathy and talk about it in their language, they actually don't practice it. Example, many large companies announce hundreds and thousands of people being laid off or being let go in an email.
Yeah, we've seen some recent
cases. It's been happening for quite some time, and large numbers. And it's almost like you wake up in the morning and you get an email that you're no longer in the company. That to me feels strange and odd if the person has been talking about empathy for a long time. Can you explain? Can you describe? By the way, they're doing actually a bunch of good things, such as, maybe giving, time, to find a new job, helping, all of that. But you're still talking about humans. You need to talk to them. If you go back to one of the differentiators of humans, I keep going back to human species differentiation, it's our ability to read the other person's mind. It's called the theory of the mind. By the way, that's unique, even when you compare it to our cousins in the ape world, the chimpanzees and the orangutans and the bonoboses of the world. they haven't crossed the Rubicon of being able to read the other person's mind and then saying, I'll do this because I know this is the way this person is thinking.
Right.
We do that a lot. And that's actually been one of the differentiators. If that is true, then why do you lose it when you're a leader? And shouldn't you be putting yourself in the other person's shoes, thinking about what they're thinking, then saying, okay, here's what I need to do, because I know what they're going through and thinking.
Yeah.
It's a really difficult thing.
This has spirited me into asking a question that was actually asked of me in front of 300 people. And it took me a little while, actually. I probably didn't answer it in the way I wanted to, but I reflected on it. And someone said to me, they said, I get it. The human-centered leader understood. They said to me, there are leaders at the moment in this world who are very, very powerful, very, very successful, incredibly wealthy, who they said are perhaps not what you are describing. They are not the human-centered leader. And they said, what do you say to that? And it took me a little while to reflect on that. And I said, you know what, that has to be true. But what I said to people is, the question comes down to this, is you get to choose the leader that you want to be. And that is entirely within your gift. I was just saying that the best leaders that I am coming across again and again and again are those who are able to demonstrate human-centered leadership. Do you have any thoughts in relation to the fact that we have those within the younger generation who are looking at people who are perhaps the very reverse of what we're talking about, but they are incredibly successful? Now, I know there's research that suggests that does not create a sustainable business, but just on a human level, what are your thoughts about that? Because you may well have seen or even had leaders in your businesses who were not this.
I would give a personal and systemic perspective. So on a systemic perspective, people assume they look at employees as human resources. Yes, they change some titles. Now you don't have CHRO, you have CPO, Chief People Officer, not Chief HR Officer. However, they haven't changed the way they manage people, still through Excel tables or AI-driven platforms, emails, yes, literally like resources. I think true leaders are those that who understand that these people are not just selling their time and expertise for an amount of money, but they could bring, if properly engaged, their intelligence, their hopes, their energy, their creativity, their curiosity, everything they can bring into the game, multiplying your overall success. And as well gratification, because it's not just about the shareholder profit. I mean, this is not the only measure of success. I'm not sure how these very successful leaders that you called out, that people recognize they are not really humanly centered.
Yes.
If what success truly is. Yes, they could be rewarded by the market for a quarter, 2 quarters, 2 years, 3 years. Is this a long-term sustainable value? Would they feel good with themselves when they finish that career? It's all about gratification of knowing you've done something truly meaningful. So that's a systemic view. On a personal level, we should never take as granted the fact that we've been promoted to a certain title, and that means we are worth that title every day. Because we are selected by our own bosses, and we meet their agenda. The true success is when you blend the agenda you are hired for with a true engagement and meaning of value creation for the teams you are leading. And many people forget that. So the key question is a really humbling question, is asking yourself almost every day, if my people could vote today at 9 a.m., would they vote me as their leader? And that will include as well the younger generation. Yeah. And that's a very tough question. I tell you, I had very dark days. I had very dark days when I realized, hey, I actually do not think they would vote for me today or this week or this month because I'm not creating the value they are looking for. And that keeps you engaged, curious, keep learning, keep understanding how to create, to be the right enabler for them. Because they don't choose you for how colorful you are. They choose you for the color you bring to their lives. And this is what's important. So for the leaders out there, and not just political leaders, everywhere, ask yourself this question. It's a very healthy one, even as a father or as a mother. don't take things as granted just because genetically you are connected. If my kid could vote, oh my God, especially teenager ones.
parents are
Maybe it's
hyperventilating
better
now.
not to ask this question while they are teenagers because the answer will not be that good. But I have a teenager son at home. But it's a healthy question, painful, masochistic even,
Yeah.
but it keeps you engaged with the purpose to add the right value to the people around yourself.
I think I love that. That's a great question I might start offering our senior leaders to ask. Tiger, thoughts on that topic of the leaders who aren't this?
So lots of them are not in all spheres of life. And that's partly because I think we have a problem in the way success of leaders is defined.
Right.
Success often, particularly in the world of business, and actually in many other worlds, is defined as what happened when the person became the leader on this date and what happened up to the point the person stepped out of their leadership role in whatever form or fashion. From this date to this date, what happened to whatever they owned. And you can measure that through market cap, GDP, again, depends on the sphere, but that's how it's measured. That's all wrong. You use the word sustainability, sustainable leadership. It's 5 years later, do people who are involved in that journey look and say, I remember working for blah leader, and we are where we are because of what was done 5 years back, and I was part of that journey.
It's my legacy.
It's legacy. It's 5 years later. Do you look back as a leader and say, 5 years back, that thing that I was part of, I was a leader, look at how well it's doing today. And part of the reason it's doing well today, better than when I was there, is because, succession, all of that was orchestrated well. The new person is there, blah, blah, blah. There is no longevity to leadership that is there the way it should be. So not only is it, what kind of a leader do I want to become? It's what kind of a leader do I want to follow? And there, I think humans are humans. While many people will follow today's leaders because they are in the seat they are in, they're not following the leader because of the person. You change the person in the seat, they'll follow the new person in the seat.
Right.
However, there are some leaders, irrespective of whether they are in the seat or not, will attract followers. And that's the kind of leader you hope you would like to become. And that's the kind of leaders who actually generate, sustainable followership.
I love both those answers. And in my head, I'm thinking of all kinds of follow-ups and graphics for this, because one of the reasons, it's amazing to have you back. You've both been amazing supporters of the show, and we've loved having you on. But one of the reasons I really wanted to come on as well was to, in some ways, we're solidifying and we're starting to take ourselves seriously now, as with so many conversations, with so much data. But we're launching the Global Human-Centered Leadership Index this week, which I'm super excited about.
Doesn't exist.
Doesn't it yet? There's a growth mindset for you. So we're going to be asking, I hope, at least 500 leaders from all over the world at the top of the house, from a very, very eclectic mix of sectors and organizations, what their thoughts are, where are leaders strongest, where are the gaps, and which qualities do they think, really need to step up. So I know it's World Cup time right now, so I'm going to ask you almost to think about some predictions. What do you think will come out? What do you think will come out from a global study or a global index in relation to where we feel leaders are the strongest and where we think the gaps are? Do you think it will be what you've already said? Or when we go to such a wide array of people, do you think something else will come out? Where do you think we'll be in, say, 2 months' time when we've got all this data in? What do you think will come out? We won't hold you to it, but I'm just intrigued as to what you think a global leadership survey might start to throw out.
I think it'll reinforce kind of lots of things we talked about here. I think it'll reinforce and provide, foundational data to the framework itself and the importance. However, I think diversity of the spread of data is what is going to be most interesting.
Yeah.
Some will spike. I mean, it's impossible for everyone to be amazing or terrible at everything.
Yeah.
So some will spike in some areas and some others will spike in some areas. You'll find, I think, concentration that is interesting by geography, by culture, by industry. Some of it would be explainable, given the nature of the culture, the history, or the history of the industry, and the kind of thing that make people successful in an industry. Some of them will not be explainable and therefore would require more understanding. Say, why is it like this? So I think it'll throw up more questions. I love the fact that it's an index, because by definition, an index is live and dynamic, which means
we'll do it year on year.
I was going to say daily, but anyhow, I'm a big believer that lots of things annual becomes too slow. But I'm just kidding. But you can constantly watch, and two, you can actually say, I want to measure myself and compare it to whoever you want to compare with. You want to compare with a global index, great. You want to compare with a geography, great. You want to compare with your industry, great. You want to
we can segment it as well as time goes on.
I just can't compare with my competitor because I don't know. It's all anonymized.
Of course.
But otherwise, so I think that's my view is that that's what's going to come out. I don't think, interestingly, to your question to both of us, what's missing, I don't think there's anyone who's going to come up loudly and say, we think this whole topic is missing. It's not. It's not.
It'll just be interesting to see, to your point, where the variations on a theme start to reside.
Yeah.
Angela, what are your thoughts? If you had to put some bets on.
I'd like to meet Tiger, coming from another angle. So we called it, I think, twice or three times during the conversation, how uncertain the world is currently, how many businesses are struggling currently under the pressure of technology, pressure of the speed required in their transformations, intensity of the shareholders' impatience, you name it. The overall conflict, war is a mess, right? If you truly go and ask the 5 why we have that mess, but the 5 whys for real, you get the last answer. I bet you, we can do this exercise together. I bet you the last 5, the 5th why will give you one of these sound bites here.
Right.
One of these words, either lack of curiosity, lack of humility, big one. We are the creators of our own mess. And that is because we lost our way of truly zooming out and understand the consequences of our decisions. I'm talking about politicians. I'm talking about key big business leaders, from financial, to operational, and recentering everyone. Coming back to your question right now, will not only give people back a system of reference of measuring ourselves against, but a framework that people are craving for to see it back as a recognized leadership framework that is needed in the society everywhere.
Yeah. And as I say, I hope this conversation, as we start to develop the thought leadership, is nothing other than a platform for conversation itself. And it will provoke people into disagreeing, agreeing, and coming up with their own ideas as regards what is the differentiator, what is the human element of this. Let me finish with...
So one quick, as I was listening to you, Angela, and your question, for the future, once you get this systematically on a regular basis, there'll come a time when all of this is based on survey and self-reporting of myself and my team and my company and whatever I lead on where we stand on this. At some point, the question will become, okay, that's what you think. I want to go and check. Are you walking the talk? And what are the things to check for in an organization that tells you, yeah, you guys are a very curious organization. You say you're curious, but actually you're not curious. That would be a little bit more science to be built around that framework, saying, let's double click on curiosity.
Yep.
Here are the 7 things to look for that tell you, A, you are curious, and B, you are running a curious company. Or you are a company that cares versus a company that doesn't care. I don't care what you say. I want to actually go and find out.
Well, this came to Angela's point about maybe there's an assessment in this. So rather than self-selecting, allow your people to vote. Would they vote for you to be in the role, and do they actually
that will
see
raise the awareness for many leaders around the world?
Well, there might be a shock.
The current practice is all those self-reported assessments for my last 30 years, every year I would have a 360.
Yeah.
But this is pretty traditional. There are 40 questions about your behavior, the way you engage people, the way you respect them, the way you get the best out of them. I think something that is structured more around this human-centered leadership will really create a right and healthy reflection and as well evolution of leadership for us all.
Well, I hope people get hold of this and do some iterations to it, and it starts to have a life of its own. So if we started something here today, that would be wonderful, but we won't be finishing it. Hopefully others will do that.
You have started.
Let's go. So what I want to do is to kind of complete this sentence for me. This is how we're going to finish. So in a world of artificial intelligence, the future belongs to leaders who
are human.
It might be an obvious solution to it.
Obvious.
In a world of AI, the future belongs to leaders who. What do you think, Tiger?
Go back to where they came from, which is humanity.
Human DNA, how you nicely try now to describe it. Yes.
Well, today is a big day, as I say. So we launched the Human-Centered Leadership Index, and I think it's probably, if I'm really honest, after 6 years and 300 conversations, etc., it's probably when the Leadership Enigma grew up and suddenly realized that we had to do something more just than the sum of the parts. So I hope, and I hugely thank both of you for coming on in and helping hopefully create a springboard now to something very, very different. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Cool.
I appreciate
Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much, Adam.
Join us again next week for more curiosity and insight with the Leadership Enigma. We'd love to hear your comments on today's show as well as suggestions for future topics and guests. Get in touch with me on LinkedIn or visit us at www.leadersenigma.com. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe on all your major podcast platforms and on our dedicated YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining the community.